Box Hill, in Melbourne's eastern suburbs, is a multicultural hub shaped by the upheaval of immigration after the first wave. Greater ethnic diversity, along with traditional diasporic architectural styles, consequently built a community celebrating heritage, arts, education, and sport. Box Hill's cultural identity was founded on the basis of immigration, with the predominant languages spoken at home besides English being Mandarin and Cantonese. Accommodating for potential language barriers, Whitehorse implemented bilingual signs on built structures that are likely to be frequently used. This streetscape depicts a selection of the many East Asian retail services offered, and the bright red and yellow hues are reminiscent of the traditional colours portrayed on the Chinese flag. A conglomerate of original Victorian-style architecture is maintained and restored in some areas. East Asian influences seen through gateways known as pai fang often consist of materials such as wood, stone, or brick. Another symbolic form of ornamentation are statues. Here, elephants were seen neighbouring the archway, symbolising prosperity and success. Houses are also surrounded by greenery, and now in the modern day, novel high-rise developments are underway. The Box Hill Gardens encompasses activities for all ages, allowing people to join and utilise the site whilst building connections within the community and contributing to an overall better health and well-being.
In contrast to Box Hill's current celebration of multiculturalism, its start was not so inclusive. Much like other places across Victoria, as the land was settled by British immigrants, the traditional owners of the lands were left unacknowledged, displaced, relocated, and mistreated starting in Box Hill during the 1830s. This was all done in hopes of further securing colonial power and building the suburb in the British perception of civilization. The Box Hill Town Hall is a key example of colonial civic architecture. Using a neoclassical design style, it features large imposing porticos and columns, demonstrating British ideals of order, stability, and authority. Churches and schools also became a representation of British tradition in their Gothic Revival style, with pointed arches and stained glass windows. For these buildings, materials were often sourced directly from the Box Hill brickworks, allowing European commercial and residential expansion directly from the suburb itself.
Yet the extension of train lines in the 1880s also made circulating resources more accessible. Reconciliation in current years has been considered with more importance, marking many colonial landmarks with acknowledgements of the traditional owners. These landmarks stand repurposed today as reminders of the long-standing links between Box Hill's history and how the suburb identity has been shaped today.
The repeal of the White Australia policy enabled the influx of Southeast Asia refugees arriving in Box Hill in the 1970s. The start of the 1980s marked the beginning of the third wave of migration, where Box Hill had emerged as a Chinatown, housing a huge Asian community. Chinese students had been offered permanent residence in Australia in the mid-1980s, which contributed to the growth of Box Hill. With the presence of Chinese migrants in Box Hill, housing became larger in size and different in type, more bedrooms and bathrooms. No drastic changes were made in the architecture of their homes to align with Australia's affluent style, therefore wanting to adapt to the architecture of Australia. There had been a drastic growth in the ecological footprint of Chinese-born migrants. The younger demographic contributed to this large change, suggesting that they were a primary catalyst for the growth of their ecological footprint overall.
Originally the land of the Wurundjeri Woi-wurrung tribe, the land of Box Hill is under the Shire of Whitehorse City and is now home to a vast ethnic group comprised mainly of a collection of Asian peoples. As the streets and hills of Box Hill are said to resemble a Chinese dragon's body, a large amount of the population is Chinese, as it is deemed auspicious and lucky to live there. During the 1850s and 1900s, the gold rush in Victoria brought many Chinese via boat to seek their fortunes in the Melbourne goldfields. During this period, Box Hill remained largely a European settlement of orchard farms. Later in the 1980s, after the immigration reform, New Chinatown or Box Hill began to flood with Chinese-speaking international students and skilled workers. From humble beginnings in the Nunawading Council to a full-blown suburb with skyscrapers, Box Hill is no longer a small postal sub-station as it began in the early 1860s, a group of dwellings, shops, a pub, and other businesses that collectively became known as Box Hill. Now a miniature CBD, Box Hill boasts a large train station and shopping centre, multiple skyscrapers and a great number of local businesses, mainly offering Asian goods such as fresh produce and products.